What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new DC Universe film, Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is written and directed by David Ayer and stars a whole mess of people that I'm not going to bother naming right now because I'm going to talk about them later in the video. This newest installment in the DC Universe takes place after the events of Batman v Superman, where the United States government realizes that they do not have a deterrent if another Superman were to come down from the sky and want to attack them. So they decide that they're going to put together a team of the worst villains that they have. Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis, takes head of this Task Force X, as it is called in the film, and when a non-human entity attacks a major city, the Suicide Squad is sent in to do something. You don't really know what, but they're sent there to do it. I'm going to talk about this movie as a whole and then get into the cast later because I feel that this movie has problems. This is not a perfect film by any means. I don't think it's as bad as Batman vs Superman. It's definitely not as bad as Man of Steel. I think DC is slowly moving in the right direction, but it is minuscule movements. It's like a snail. And I think that this movie is a show of a step in the right direction, but quite literally one step. It is one step better than Batman vs Superman. The beginning of this film was actually pretty fun. You get Amanda Waller basically telling other people in the US government about members of the Suicide Squad. So we get these flashbacks of their lives and how they ended up where they are. And it was interesting, but at the same time, it didn't really feel natural. It felt like it was sort of like, hey, we're gonna throw a whole bunch of exposition at you for the first like 30 to 45 minutes of this film before anything really starts happening in the story. And I feel like they could have more naturally just interweaved it into the story rather than just have it all dropped on us right at the beginning. I actually enjoyed the fight sequences in this movie quite a bit, and I think that part of that is because it isn't full of people that have superpowers. A lot of these are just people that are normal human beings that have maybe heightened abilities. They aren't actual superhumans, and I think that that helped with the combat in the film because it made it seem more real, even though it's taking place in a very, like, not grounded in reality sense type of fight. This movie also has a great soundtrack. I think Ayer does a pretty solid job directing this movie. There are some choices that I personally didn't agree with, and then I also think that the movie is decently funny. It's not hilarious, but it does have some funny moments within it. Now, what I think is the greatest strength of this film, but somehow simultaneously became a massive issue with it, is this extremely interesting idea of a super team, but it's full of villains. And this movie took this idea that is actually extremely interesting and then somehow turned it into just an extremely generic story that has what I would argue is one of the top 5 worst superhero villains ever in a movie. It is like a cut and paste generic villain. And I understand that when some people go see this movie, they will enjoy the villain in this movie because it is sort of an interesting idea, and I'm not going to spoil who it is or anything, but the ending process of it, the third act finale fight, just felt very strange and clunky, and because this villain has no real like stakes, you don't get introduced to this villain to where you care about them, and then it sort of just feels like they're supposed to be this big evil monster that's going to destroy the world, and instead of anybody calling Batman or any of these other superhuman people that they know about, they say, hey, let's throw these 6 people that really only like one of them has an actual superpower in to fight these people. This whole film just felt extremely bland, and I really kind of am to the point where I refuse to believe that David Ayer wrote this movie alone. Warner Brothers had to have had their hands in this. David Ayer cannot go from writing movies like End of Watch and Fury and Training Day to writing this. This movie, the progression in it is so slow. It's not a slow-paced film because there's action that keeps it moving, but the way you learn about the characters is just a massive dump at the beginning, and then you don't learn anything else for so long. And it just feels like he wouldn't write a movie like this. He wouldn't write a movie that feels as clunky as this movie does. Not to mention, DC really wants to become a real contender in the cinematic universe, and don't get me wrong, they're making buttloads of money, but this movie's effects are pretty rough, dude. Like, the ending stuff and the villain and things like that, they look really, really bad sometimes, and I don't understand it at all. And this movie wants to be this hardcore evil bad guy thing, but DC can't make up their mind. They want to do that, but at the same time, they want to make a movie that's like Marvel, and you have to choose. You either have to embrace the fact that you're going to make a dark film, and that there are going to be people that aren't going to like it, but then the people that do like it will love your dark comic book movie, like Watchmen. Watchmen is extremely decisive, but the people that love Watchmen, like me, love it a lot. And I think that that's the thing DC needs to decide. They need to decide whether they want to go with the funny, not as dark sort of feel that Marvel has, or if they just want to dive deep and take the dark movie for what it is and leave it dark and make it rated R and take the chance. Because to me right now, they keep flip-flopping. They say they want to have a dark universe based in reality. You need to decide what you're trying to make and then stick to it. Now that I'm done talking about the movie as a whole, I want to get into the characters. Now, I do want to preface this with I enjoyed a lot of the character interactions in this movie. I felt that there were actually some fun relationships between characters. I thought that a lot of them were funny together, and I enjoyed them as a whole, I think. But there are definitely some that to me were completely squandered and really weird character choices. I'm just going to go through these one by one and give you my real quick opinion on each character. Some of them were good, some of them were bad. Killer Croc was an extremely cliche, big monster man who beat stuff up with his hands, and that's about it. All of his lines that he had, 7 of them that he has in the film, were pretty ridiculously cliche and bad. Slipknot. I don't have anything to say about Slipknot. Rick Flag. I actually enjoyed Rick Flag in this film. I thought that Joel Kinnaman did a good job as him, and I think that his relationship with Deadshot actually helped make an interesting dichotomy between the two characters, one being a hitman while the other almost being a hitman for the United States government, but he views Deadshot in such a different way. Katana was in this movie. That's about it. Enchantress, played by Cara Delevingne, actually had a much bigger role in this film than I expected her to, and I felt that she did a pretty solid job, but I think her character suffered from the CGI in this film, and I also think that the character suffered from us not really understanding much about her, and it sort of felt like a very strange character thrown in there, even though I did feel that in some scenes she was actually really cool to watch. Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis, was good. I thought Viola Davis was good in this role. I felt that she was maybe a little over the top in some sequences, but I actually thought that she captured the idea of this like really tough and rumble US government employee who has to like keep these members of the Suicide Squad in line, and I thought she did a good job. Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I thought he was funny, and I felt that he captured the essence of that character, who is sort of silly because he throws boomerangs, but I thought that he did it well, and I will hope to see him in more movies in the future because I think he was funny even though his character did not have much to do in the film. Now I saved the 4 people that I want to talk about the most for last. You have Will Smith as Deadshot and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I think that of the members of the Suicide Squad, they have the most to do in the film and they are very interesting. I felt that Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn didn't really have that much emotion to deal with in the film, so I didn't feel like I ever was attached to her character, but I do feel that Margot Robbie gave a very solid performance and was able to capture the character of Harley Quinn, which is something people have wanted to see on screen for a very long time. However, Will Smith to me is by far the strongest member of the Suicide Squad, which is not that surprising being as he's the best actor of all of them. But his character has this heart when it comes to why he's there fighting and why he's doing what he does, and I also felt that Will Smith really owned the action sequences that he was in, and he really actually blew me away in this movie for the first time in a while. Jay Hernandez as El Diablo was actually the biggest surprise for me in this film. He is very good in this movie. He doesn't have a lot of lines and he doesn't have a ton to do, but you just feel for his character every time he talks, and you really understand his plight and his problems, and you feel for him, and I really enjoyed him, and I thought he brought a lot of humanity to this film, even though ironically he's the only member of the Suicide Squad that has a real superpower. And last but not least, Jared Leto's Joker. Dear God, I thoroughly enjoy Heath Ledger's Joker. I think Jack Nicholson's Joker is a fun, comedic take on it. I don't know whose idea it was to put Tony Montana in fucking Joker makeup and give him a golden AK-47 and a laugh. Because that's what he is. He's a gangster in this movie. He's a pimp. He's not the Joker. He's not a psychotic maniac. He's a guy who runs a gang who kills people. That's it. when you're introduced to him, you think, I actually was pretty confident Jared Leto's Joker was going to be pretty cool the first time you meet him in Harley Quinn's flashback. But when you meet him later in the film, first off, he could have been entirely cut out of this film and it would have changed nothing. Nothing at all. I don't even know why he was included except for the flashbacks. Except for the fact they want to make money off people who wanted to see Jared Leto's Joker. But I don't understand the choices here. He's wearing gold suits. He's shooting golden AK-47s. He's just being a dick. In general, he's got a dude in a suit who's like his number one. I don't understand. He doesn't come off as a psychotic maniac. He comes off as a guy who dressed up as the Joker and started a gang. And I don't like it, and I didn't think he was good. I thought his laugh was cool, and I thought that Jared Leto's performance itself was fine, but I don't know if this was his decision, or David Ayer came up with this, or Warner Brothers came up with this, but whoever decided to turn this psychotic maniac who's supposed to be a mindless killer who has no rules of engagement and doesn't care about order in the world into just a generic punk with a gun, you're wrong. That's not what the Joker is, and you have given us the worst rendition of the Joker that we have gotten in film to date. I'm gonna give Suicide Squad a C. I wanted to like this movie, but it just has a lot of things wrong with it, and I think that Warner Brothers is to blame for most of them. And if the DC Universe does not get its stuff in line, I think that a lot of people will stop going to these movies. I think that you'll get a bunch of people for the first Justice League, and then if they mess that one up, people are going to stop going. And I'm not going to do that because I'm going to go do reviews for these movies. But I really think they need to understand what tone they're trying to get out of these films, and they need to stick to it. They need to decide if they want to go that dark route, and if that's where they want to go, they need to stay on that route and not try to move over into the comedy or funny or lighter section, but still try to keep that dark essence in the film, because it just doesn't work. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this review, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Suicide Squad, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.